of course. He halted the team. The light showed him the frame of a door with the snow softly furring it all over, particularly in the corners. This door he threw open and thought that he saw heaven. Then he took 3 paces forward. The frightful cold entered with him, dissolving into a mist like the breath of cattle on a frosty morning. In the center of the room there was a big stove, with a fire that roared in it and kept its chimney trembling. He looked at that stove as a miser looks at gold. He had not been warm for 6 weeks. He had not escaped from a deep-seated chill for a month and a half, and yet the other men in the room were not hugging the stove. They were scattered here and there. They were standing at the long bar where Spooner Joe presided, lofty as a mast and ugly as a death's head. They were scattered at the tables playing poker. They were betting gold dust at the roulette wheel. The night was still young. "Hey, you! Shut the door!" yelled 1 or 2. Lefty Ranger merely stood where he had halted and laughed thunderously through the mist that he had brought in with him. That mist began to dissolve, falling away from his head and shoulders, from his body, as though it were a heavy gas. Then it slid out along the floor. He waved to the crowd, right and left, shouting, "Mail!" There were some who knew his face. Others knew his voice. They greeted him with a great roar of welcome. They laughed and sang. They rushed out and tore the heavy mail sacks from the sled. They carried them into the room. They opened them. They spilled the contents along the bar. Names were shouted. Some of the men were busy opening their own mail. Others hurried out and roused the town. Circle City began to pour into the saloon of Spooner Joe. It was a great night for Spooner. Those who had letters bought drinks to celebrate the great occasion. Those who had good news set him up for the entire house. Those who had no mail and no message drank to forget their disappointment. As for Bill Ranger, he went to the sled team, carrying out a quantity of dried fish. They should eat before he did, and eat they did, while he stood grinning at their joy and their appetite, throwing the fish to them one by one, and watching those experts snatch their meals out of the air. Their hunger was a bright light that showed them what was coming. He fed them well, almost dangerously well. Still, he had something to do before he ate. He could not subdue his appetite until that other thing was accomplished. So now he strode into the saloon, again bearing up with him a small but ponderous canvas sack that he put down upon the bar with a thump. For a time he looked around him at the faces of those who were opening mail and celebrating along the bar. The room was filled with the blue-brown shadows of tobacco smoke. Through that mist, it was difficult to make out features. His own face, as he pushed back the hood, was masked with a grizzled covering of uncropped beard and whiskers. His smile, beneath that growth of hair, was a distorted grin, strange to see. There was starvation in his eyes, but there was a smile in them also. At last, tired of searching with his eyes, he called in a loud voice, "Doc Harness! Doc Harness! Where are you?" At this, one of the men standing close to him looked hastily, critically up toward the mail carrier. With equal haste, he turned his attention down again to his drink. 6 glasses of the same concoction were standing before Bill Ranger, untasted by him. He had this other errand to perform before he could drink, eat, or enjoy himself in any way. Only the starved dogs had taken preference over it. Trouble and impatience combined in the eyes of Ranger, as there was no answer to his call. "Doc Harness!" he shouted more loudly. "Where's Doc Harness? Why don't some of you fellows go and give him a rouse? Tell him that I'm here, and that I got news for him that'll make him stand 3 inches taller. I got news for him that'll take the kink out of his shoulders for good and all, and—" No one answered. Each man appeared to be busy with his letter or with his drink, and yet, in fact, no one tasted a drop, and no one read a word after that cry from Bill Ranger. Then Joe Spooner, looking more like a death's head than ever, came down the bar and paused opposite the mail carrier. "Partner," he said gently, "the kink is already taken out of old Doc's shoulders. You don't need to go on worrying about him anymore."